While the world's population is increasing at an alarming rate, water is becoming an increasingly scarce commodity. Today, many of us go to the gas station or grocery store to buy bottles of water, believing it's the best option for clean drinking water. What if I told you, though, that not only is the water you're buying has a high chance of being better than your own tap water, but being taken from other countries around the world by hundreds of windowless factories that run 24/7 and are constantly pumping water through miles and miles of pipeline from local springs and lakes, destroying the local water sources from people who inhabit the area. But there's a simple and effective way to help save our environment, and it starts by switching to a personal water bottle. Nestle, the corporate giant, is worth $236 billion today. Nestle made $7.7 billion off the water bottle worldwide, and $343 million of it coming from right here in the U.S. and Michigan, where the company bottles Ice Mountain Water, Natural Spring, and Pure Life. In rural Muskota County, Michigan, Nestle's near windowless facility is just one of Nestle's roughly 100 bottled water factories in 34 countries internationally. 10 production lines fill the facility, all for the purpose of funneling local spring water into containers as small as 8 ounces and as large as 2.5 gallons. They end up producing a staggering 3.5 million bottles daily. Nestle has created this factory for the sole purpose of taking water from locals and exporting it for the profit. These kinds of factories that can produce upwards of 500 to 1,200 bottles per minute and run 24/7 mean they are draining water through their 12-mile-an-hour pipeline from lakes and rivers faster than it can be replenished. About 60% of the factory water comes from Muskota Springs in Michigan. We all complain and think it's a horrible sight, and then we go buy ourselves some bottled water, believing it's better than our own tap water. But the truth is, bottled water isn't safer to drink than our own tap water. About 40% of the bottled water is regular tap water, which may or may not have received additional treatment. In fact, most municipal tap water has to adhere to stricter purity standards than our own bottled water big water companies do. The EPA requires large public water suppliers to test for contaminants as often several times a day, whereas the FDA requires private bottlers to test for contaminants only once a week, once a year, or even as often as once every 4 years. Depending on the contaminant, this means private companies can get away with selling some of the same water we have seen in places like Flint, Michigan, or other places that wouldn't even have to purify it. There's an issue of scarcity as well. The United Nations expects that 1.8 billion people will live in places with dire water shortages by 2025. And that's 2/3 of the world's population could be living under stressed water conditions. These numbers don't just apply for developing countries or smaller countries either. It applies to us here in the U.S. as well. Our supply of water may be compromised in the U.S. A 2017 Michigan State University study predicts that more than 1/3 of Americans might not be able to afford their water bills in 5 years and expect to see prices triple due to the water scarcity. In the U.S., Nestle tends to set up shop in areas with weaker water regulations for lobbies to enfeeble laws such as Maine, Texas, and to operate under states like Maine and Texas operate under a remarkably lax tax rule from the 1800s called absolute capture, which lets landowners take all the groundwater they want. Michigan, New York, and other states have stricter laws allowing for reasonable use, which means property owners can extract water as long as it doesn't unreasonably affect the other wells or aquifer systems. For companies like Nestle to sell water, you first have to own the land. In the case of Nestle, it applies to many parts of the United States. Moreover, whoever owns these lands acquires leasing rights to it and are permitted to pump as much water as they like. Every year, Nestle pumps out millions of cubic meters of water from transportation in tankers to huge bottling factories. Then Nestle tries to suppress the opposition to any organization with its army of powerful PR consultants, lobbyists, and lawyers. The Swiss film Bottled Life documents the booming business with the bottled water. It focuses on the Nestle Corporation in Switzerland. Nestle currently controls over 70% of the world's bottled water brands among them are Perrier and San Pellegrino. Reese researched this topic, and it took him to Pakistan. Nestle's market for its own product, Pure Life, is one of the world's most bought water brands. The village next to the factory's groundwater has decreased dramatically as well, and the village fountain now is nothing but foul-smelling sludge. Nestle's Pure Life is a clever business concept, and particularly so in the developing world. In countries such as Pakistan, where the public water supply has failed or is close to collapse, so Nestle proudly presents its bottled water as a safe, healthy alternative for the overwhelming majority of consumers, though it is an expensive, out-of-reach alternative. In the mega metropolis of Nigeria and Africa, with its population skyrocketing every year, water always comes at a price. The scenario of a city in which everyone has to pay for Nestle's water is already a sad reality in Lagos. Families seeking out an existence in the slums spend half their meager budget on canisters of water. The upper class, they purchase Nestle Pure Life. In researching his film Bottled Life, Reese comes to a sad and sombering conclusion. It is that of a company intent on amassing resources rights worldwide, with the aim of dominating the global market for the future. But there's still hope. We can stop companies like Nestle from being able to do these terrible things to our country and other countries, and it all starts by carrying a water bottle. In the United States, approximately 42 billion plastic water bottles are purchased every year by companies like Nestle. In total, we Americans spend about $11.8 billion on plastic water bottles. Are these plastic water bottles really worth all that money? The U.S. spends about $20 on a reusable water bottle, can save an average American $6,180 after 5 years of use, which is the bare minimum life expectancy of a reusable water bottle. If you switch to using a reusable water bottle, you can save approximately 217 plastic water bottles from going to landfill this year alone. Not only do they save you a lot of money and help the environment, but they also are a healthier option as opposed to plastic water bottles. Reusable water bottles are lead and BPA free, which is beneficial to you and your families as well. By switching to a reusable water bottle, you can save yourself thousands of dollars, help the environment, and lower the cost of plastic waste.